Catch an attitude, drop to them knees and show gratitude. Kiss my ring, chick. This song right here is for all the fellas out there taking care of business and making that money to provide for their ladies, provide for their family, and to all the ladies out there. The fellas are gonna need a little bit more than a big piece of chicken. If you got a good man and you want for nothing, and you wanna keep that man, you need to learn how to check that attitude. You need to show some appreciation. You need to show some respect. Girl, you need to bow down. All my fellas, tell your ladies. Bow to me, kneel for me, kneel for me. Kiss the ring, bow to me, kneel for me, kneel for me. Pay homage to the king in your life. Wisdom and security, I give that. Devotion and honesty, I show that. Passion and love, you feel that? Bow down, girl, you need to show some respect. Obedience and loyalty, I need that. Friendship and trust, I've earned that. Gratitude, appreciation, I deserve that. Bow down, pay homage to the king in your life. Baby girl, what's the deal? Got no time for freaking girl, you're acting mad. Never want for nothing cause I'm paying the bill. Sleeping all day, the house is filthy. No meal. Come on, girl, give me some feedback. Let me know what's good, what's up. Where's your head at? Giving me attitude, not today, girl. Dead that. Strip off them clothes, I'm trying to beat that. Bed that. You're really saying not tonight? Not tonight. My blood is boiling hot, girl. You're getting.
I'm a PhD.
Oh, man. To the right. Don't let that door hit your ass when you leave. You hot, you not. Shorty, I know dime pieces. Trust me, you not. I can get a next chick. Next one. Like Gucci said, in the next 15 minutes. You ain't special, don't be foolish. Running around town like you rich. No, I'm rich. Without me, you wouldn't even have that. I'm Scrooge McDuck swimming in money. Hold my top hat. Park Avenue lifestyle, you love it. You're acting out of order and now you're gonna lose it. You claim that you're in love with me and love with me. You wanna be my wifey, be my wifey. That's looking pretty bleak, unlikely. You should've paid homage, girl, you fucked up. Can't do it, no more, I'm done. I'm fed up, game over, clock ran out. Girl, your time's up, get your things, have a nice life. Keep your head up like Shaq and Kobe was a good team. But now we broke up, should've bowed to me, kneel for me, kneel for me. Kiss the ring, bow to me, kneel for me, kneel for me. Pay homage to the king in your life.
Shout out to the PhDs up in this Pete. Big Shirley.
I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, lamb, ram.
Obedience and loyalty, I need that.
Woo! Don't get mad at me. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
All I do for you, girl, you know you better kiss that. Bow down, pay homage to the king in your life. Come on, you know you love it. Come on, you know you love it. What you gonna do when highlight catch an attitude? Drop to them knees and show gratitude. Come on, you know you love it. Come on, girl, you know you love it. What you gonna do when highlight catch an attitude? Drop to the knees and show gratitude. Kiss my ring, chick.
Come on. Let's get into it. Showtime. Go time. I'm a PhD. Woo! Shout out to what's going on, Dr. White? What's going on?
In this moment,
yes. Get them up.
I cannot say what's wrong or right.
Welcome to the birth of the PhD.
Cause I'm addicted to the good life. Yeah.
Watch them ready. Watch them. They gonna get mad. They're gonna be like,
Kevin, god damn it.
I didn't do it. It ain't my fault. It ain't my fault. They're gonna be all up in here like this. They're gonna be like this.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave. Yeah.
So tell your good lies, 'cause I'll buy no matter what. Yeah. Susceptible lies before the moment flies. Ooh. So tell your good lies, 'cause I'll buy no matter what. Ooh. Susceptible lies before the moment flies. It's not a problem,
It's not a problem.
'cause I know
If you know what you're getting into. You asked, I put the songs up on a playlist, and the playlist is going to be ever growing. So you'll be able to move and groove to the show themes. Hey!
I follow, no need to say where we are heading now, babe. I follow to the edge of
Fragrance of the evening. We started off with Killian, Apple Brandy.
'cause I'll buy no matter what. Yeah.
And we're ending with Killian, Dark Lord.
Before the moment flies, before it flies. So tell your good lies, 'cause I'll buy no matter what.
Big Shirley gets up early to get her something to eat so she can pat her feet. Da 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 da. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, everybody. Shout out to the CIA, the confident, intelligent, and assertive men out there. One love to the feminine, beautiful, and inspirational ladies. Candle of the evening. We're going to need this one tonight. Palo Santo, Hollywood, and fragrance of the evening. Killian, Dark Lord. I love this packaging. So yeah, Killian, Dark Lord. All right. So do some housekeeping. Do some housekeeping. Moderators, you have the room. All I say is a couple of things. One, all I'm asking is to keep the engagement over 50%. That's the likes, dislikes, it doesn't matter. Just keep them over the 50%. And if not, you'll hear this song. If you don't want to hear that entire song, even though I know some of y'all out there actually do want to hear it, let's keep the engagement up over 50%. Tonight is going to be a broadcast that needs to be done, and you're going to have to give me a little bit of time on this one. I call it the birth of the PhD. We are in 2021, and women today are more single than they have ever been in recorded history. Prior to 1965, especially in the Black community, we were married at a rate of about 80%. But afterwards, how did we get here? How did we get to where we are right now, to where we have some of the most educated, intelligent women on the planet, and yet some of the most unmarriageable, difficult situations that we have anywhere? And understand, this is a phenomenon in the West. So we're going to talk about this from various standpoints, but there's an old adage that when white America gets a common cold, Black America gets the flu, because the Black community is at the bottom. And anytime you have a population at the bottom, if you want to see what's likely to happen over time to the rest of the population, you study that. Case in point, in the 70s, when we had a spike in the out of wedlock childbirth, teen mothers and things like that, single mothers, all of that, propaganda that was spilled. Well, now you're starting to see it pop up everywhere. How did we get here? How did we get here? All right. Before we get into it, I'm going to go over onto my YouTube channel, and I want to look at a poll I put up earlier. if you didn't have a chance to respond, you might want to go over there now. And the question I asked, I said, ladies, when you were younger, did you read magazines like Cosmopolitan or the like? Whether you bought them or not. And unsurprisingly, I have a rate of about 56% that says no. But see, my audience over here, the largest segment of women are between 18 to 24 and 25 to 34. Many of you ladies weren't even alive when Cosmopolitan was a thing. It will be no different than if I asked guys, have you bought or did you read magazines like Playboy or GQ or Esquire? The numbers were the same. And I said it didn't matter whether you bought them or not. So understand, 56% of women said, no, I didn't read Cosmopolitan. But what's not said is it doesn't matter if you read it or not. It has become so ingrained in our culture, so ingrained in our lexicon to where you will understand that many of the things that we're going to discuss today came directly from what we're about to talk about. All right, so let's set the chat room to slow down the chat room because I want people to be able to follow along as we get into it. Doggone it. Now, keep it cool, keep it classy. Let people say what they have to say. As long as they're being respectful. And I know something else. We're going to need to make sure that, well, let's see how many people. Oh yeah, we're behind on likes. We should have over 3,000 likes. Hit the like button, people, so we can get this whole thing started. Hit the like button. Let's go. Hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button. What I'm going to profile now is a woman by the name, what folks need to understand is this: America is a capitalistic country. We know that. And if you've ever watched the TV show Mad Men or anything like that, this country is built on selling products and services to a middle class. Commercials, TV, radio, billboard, newspaper, ads, advertising. It's the lifeblood of a capitalistic tertiary economy. And back before the internet, ABC, NBC, CBS, those were the three networks. If you wanted to sell something, you put it in a magazine. And people would pay big money to be in a magazine because TV advertising, one, was too expensive. Two, didn't cover enough places. Three, you can't target with it. Magazines, you can send magazines. You can actually say, I want to send them to this more affluent neighborhood. I want to skip this. Magazines were some of the best advertising in history. And what we're going to talk about now is a woman discussing how she got into the magazine business and what they did to co-opt an entire generation. The video in question is from Suzanne Vinker, and it says, former Cosmopolitan writer regrets the lies she sold to women. And the woman that she's interviewing is a woman by the name of Sue Ellen Browder, like chowder with a B. Let's get into it.
Had you on once they hear this conversation, so I'm excited.
Fair use.
So tell
Fair
us
use.
how you got started in journalism and your journey to Cosmopolitan magazine.
Okay. Well, I went to the University of Missouri School of Journalism, and I actually, while I was there, I wanted to be a magazine writer. And while I was there in my magazine writing class, we had to choose a magazine to invest, just look at it and see how would you sell to this magazine. And I chose Cosmopolitan because Cosmo was the hottest women's magazine in the nation at that time. And I came away saying, I told my journalists in training, I said, I have to say these articles in this magazine, these stories in this magazine look like they're made up. I said, they're too pat.
Notice that this woman is saying that she wanted to work for Cosmopolitan because it was the best magazine, but she said as she started reading that she, as a journalist, started thinking or realizing that these articles are made up. The magazines were not reflecting the reality that she and other people were living.
And when I graduated from the college and went to New York City, I applied for a job in the New York Times. It was just said it was a magazine. It didn't tell me what. And when I got there, it was Cosmo. So I got and I beat out.
All right, you stop complaining. So anyway, let's see. Let's do it this way. Maybe it's too low over there. Let's do it over here. It's not time stamped, but she got to Cosmopolitan.
The Missouri School of Journalism, and I was the hottest women's magazine in the nation at that time. And I came away saying, I told my journalists in training, I said, I have to say these articles in these magazine, these stories in this magazine look like they're made up. I said, they're too packed. And when I graduated from the college and went to New York City, I applied for a job in the New York Times. It was just said it was a magazine. It didn't tell me what. And when I got there, it was Cosmo. So I got and I beat out like 18 other people, and I got the job. And while I was on Cosmo's staff, I found out that I had been right. Those articles were made up. Those stories about these women living these happy-go-lucky sex lives and hopping into bed with all these men, they were just made up.
You hear that? Back when all it was TV and magazines, when the magazines were the internet of the day, the biggest magazine for women was making up lies, telling those good lies, telling women lies to sell products. Ladies, this is where it started. This is where your mother and your grandmother got their internet. This is their YouTube, their Instagram of the day. They were lies, not true, made up.
Because remember, this was in the early 1970s, and there weren't that many women doing that stuff in those days. Or if they weren't talking about it. So.
Absolutely. And that's, so this is so dear to my heart because so much of what I do is talk about this propaganda. And we're going to get into really a good conversation about propaganda and what that is. And I know that you did that in your book, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But first, you land in Cosmopolitan. In fact,
propaganda, ladies, that you can have it all. Propaganda.
I want to read just a little bit from your book, even though we haven't quite gotten into that yet, because I think it sort of picks up where you just left off on your story.
Okay.
You wrote, I can give you no justification for what I did in my former life. I will only say this in my weak defense. I was a young woman searching for truth, freedom, and meaning in the world, but I had no clue where to find them. I grew up as a small-town Iowa girl and passionately desired to escape from the prison of small-mindedness I perceived around me. And thus it was that after graduating from the University of Missouri School of Journalism, I found myself one day in New York City. And I was seated across a large wooden desk from Roberta Ashley, articles editor of Cosmopolitan magazine. Cosmo insiders seemed to know things I didn't know, secrets that made them successful in the world. My mind burned to know what they knew.
Fair use.
For a small-town Iowa girl, Cosmo's big-time glamour, success, and prestige were intoxicating. In my mind, the job, assistant to the articles editor of Cosmopolitan, was a small-town girl's dream come true. Only later would I realize how dark the dream had become.
Stop asking 11 million questions. Stop asking about the video. Pay attention. Please. See why y'all didn't do well, and some of y'all may not have done well in school. When the broadcast is going, you pay attention. If you need all that shit later, come to the description. Listen.
Eventually, it would lead to a cacophony of mixed, confused messages in our culture, about women, work, sex, marriage, and relationships. Errors that have divided our nation and continue to haunt us to this day. So that's what I meant when I said that brings me to basically the work that I do every week. So I'm really fascinated by your story. And I want to start with talking about the owner, I guess you call her the owner of Cosmopolitan, right? Helen Gurley Brown.
Editor-in-chief.
Editor-in-chief.
No, Hearst magazines were the owner of it. Hearst Corporation.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so she ran it, I guess we should say.
Yeah,
yes.
She's the editor-in-chief. Yeah.
Okay. And she was a childless woman. She was married for a long time, which was interesting, but she did.
The editor-in-chief of the magazine that sold all this propaganda was a woman who was married for 50 years, but no kids. So I find it interesting that a lot of times people come over there, how can you speak for this? How can you speak for that? How can you do this? How can you do that? When at the genesis, at the birth of all this stuff, listen to the woman who hired people to make up stories, to sell magazines, to sell advertising, to get women to buy stuff.
Not have any children. And her ultimate message, you said, was that, of course, it was the same as the sexual revolutions, which is that sexual liberation will set you free, and motherhood essentially gets in the way of that freedom. And so this magazine is really sort of a manifestation of the sexual revolution. Yes?
Oh, it was. It was a Playboy clone. This was a Playboy for young women.
Cosmopolitan magazine was a Playboy magazine clone. If you think so, pay attention to what she just said. A Playboy magazine clone. Playboy was not written for journalism. It was written to sell products.
Shirley Brown had even gone to Hugh Hefner and gotten some of his writers and some of his agents that he worked with. So this was, remember this, she turned Cosmo. Cosmo had been a general interest magazine, and she turned it into a sex rag, what I call a sex rag, mid-1960s. Yeah.
What would you say the overall message that she wanted to sell was?
Hard work and sex without the kids will set you free.
What was the message she wanted to sell? Hard work and sex without the kids will set you free. Hard work and sex without the kids will set you free. Hard work, sex without the kids will set you free. What does your husband have to say about that? What? I would not choose to be. Marriage, I'm
a PhD.
Hard work and sex without kids will set you free. What does your husband have to say about that? What does your husband have to say about that? What? Marriage, I would never choose to be. What? I'm
a PhD.
Sex without the kids leads to what? There we go. Birth of the PhD.
Okay, so very, very pro unmarried sex and very anti motherhood. Yes?
And very pro hard work. She had worked very hard, and she thought it was her hard work that had gotten her where she was.
Well, and of course that sounds very innocuous, hard work. Not many people would argue with hard work, but you're saying hard work at the exclusion of everything else, I think. Is that what you mean?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Hard work and sex without the kids.
Right. Got it.
Right. It was a double whammy.
Got it. So how were you taught to sell this message?
How were you taught to sell the message of hard work, no marriage, free sex, no kids? How are you taught to sell this message to women in order to get them to buy a magazine, to buy products and services from advertisers?
Well, Helen Gurley Brown had actually written up a list of rules on how to write stories for Cosmo. And I can give you some of these rules. I call them propaganda, because propaganda is, what is propaganda? It's half-truth, limited truth, and truth out of context. There's always a little bit of truth, just like we were saying, nothing wrong with hard work, right?
Right.
So there's always a little truth in propaganda, but it's the part that's not true that gets you.
Right.
Here's, for example, I kept that list of rules for 50 years. And when I was writing Subverted, the book that you're reading from, I couldn't find that list of rules. And then about 2 years ago in the garage, in a box, I found it. So I had the whole list of rules, and I can rewrite from those and should tell you what they said.
This woman was given rules as a young, bright-eyed college grad on how to sell articles that advertisers would want to put their dollars behind to sell products. If you've ever watched Mad Men, this is Mad Women again. And you wonder where it came from? Pay very close attention.
I'm a PhD.
Okay.
Oh, wow. I didn't. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got the rules. So propagandists, as I say, they make up stories. That's the important thing to say. Here's something I'll read to you. Since most of the women were not part of the sexual revolution at that time, I say, well, here's how we're going to make up these stories about these ordinary women who she called civilians. I guess
she called these women civilians. So, what is Cosmo? A military operation? Yeah. Propaganda. Civilians.
Okay, I guess the sexual revolutionaries were in the army and the rest of us were civilians.
I came from advertising,
right?
By the way.
But she writes,
I've heard about this already.
Try to locate some of the buildings, restaurants, nightclubs, parks, streets, as well as entire case histories in cities other than New York, even if you deliberately have to plant them elsewhere. Most writers live in New York. Well, at that time they did. 92% of our readers do not. But by making up these women and planting them in places like Cleveland and Albuquerque and Des Moines, of course, we made the sex revolutions, then quite shocking mores, seem a lot more widespread and acceptable than they actually were.
You heard that right. Make up stories, find some stuff in local areas to give it a little bit of credibility. And even if you don't know one, plant her in Cleveland or Oklahoma City or any place that's out of New York City or LA, because, most people don't resonate with that. 92% of our audience ain't here. And sell this concept of the strong, independent, I don't need no woman.
I'm a PhD.
So the unspoken message to the young reader was, everybody else is doing this. Why are you being such a stick in the mud?
So I'm smiling over here because that's exactly been my point for 20 years, is that this message that's coming through to young women is only servicing this small minority of women who live this way. And it's presented as though it's the norm, which then affects the everyday person because they think that what they're seeing is the norm. So they're making decisions based on, this is your whole point, a lie.
Right.
And they're miserable.
You're making decisions based on a lie because you've been sold to. So when you go to these channels that tell you that, they're just lying, they're just making up that stuff, they're just angry. Who hurt you? No, these are two older white women. One that was right there on the ground zero. And I'm going to put a link down in the description so you can go watch the entire interview yourself. Because she's at the end of her life. She's coming clean. She wrote a book called Subverted after she converted to Catholicism, and she just spilled all the beans. And I'm not going to play all of it, but we're going to talk about this. Was put together by about 57 people in a room somewhere. 57 people decided to sell this concept for commercial gain.
Exactly. Because this is a false way to live. Here's another one. She gives. Remember now, they tell these stories, and they make these stories up as if about women who are a lot like you. And if you're feeling insecure, and
get the likes up, or I'm gonna go on your mission.
And you're young, and you want to be successful and stuff like this, then these stories are appealing to you. And here's another one. Here's a rule on. Here's a story that Helen actually had written in these rules about an imaginary girl named Erica, who appeared. And this story appeared in an article entitled "One Man Is Not Enough." Okay.
Here comes the birth of the sexual liberation One man is not enough. Here comes the birth of Frankenstein. It's alive!
All right, here's the beginning of it. She had been living for a definition of feminine nature that was doing her an injustice.
Say that again. Wait, read that sentence again for me.
Had been living for a definition of feminine nature that was doing her an injustice. Okay?
Uh-huh.
Locking herself into a monogamous relationship, she was with a married man. She was more often than not left with no man at all. The elusive fellow in question did plan to marry her as soon as he could work his wife around to getting a divorce. So is Cosmo's advice not to sleep with married men? No. Cosmo's advice is to sleep not with one married man, but with several. So in her best-selling book, Sex and the Single Girl, here's what Helen...
How many times you've heard about making yourself a side chick to a high value man or a man with money? Y'all didn't think y'all thought y'all came up with this idea? No, it was sold to you. It was sold to you, made all right.
It seems to me the solution is not to rule out married men, but to keep them as pets. While they are using you to varnish their egos, you use them to add spice to your life. I say them advisedly. One married man is dangerous. A potpourri can be fun. So there you go.
I have a question for you. How did you, I guess, rectify her message and the fact that she was, didn't you say she was married for like 50 years to one man?
Yes, she was. In fact, she said that she was married to David Brown, who was a very famous producer at the time. He was the producer of Jaws and Driving Miss Daisy. She said if David ever had an affair, she'd kill him.
So where do you think this came from, this desire to tell people to live a life that she clearly wasn't even living herself? Like, what is that?
She had been a very successful copy editor in California, copywriter.
Here it goes. Pay attention.
California. She was a advertising copywriter, and this was ad copy. She was selling the Cosmo lifestyle because that's what she was using to sell products in the magazine. Now,
there you go. They made up an entire lifestyle to sell to women, to sell ads in a magazine. Ladies, this is where it came from. This is a big part of where it came from.
let me explain. If you understand how propaganda works, Edward Bernays wrote a book called Propaganda. He is considered the father of public relations. And he wrote that book titled Propaganda in the early 1900s, in the 1920s. He thought propaganda was a really good thing. But he explained, how do you sell pianos to the middle class? Because a piano is a pretty high ticket item. You sell a piano by selling the music room. You have all of these beautiful magazines with these very successful people, famous rich people who have music rooms in their house. And once you've sold the middle class on the idea of having a music room, they'll just think, I got to have a piano. You see? So you change the whole person's whole world around them in a way that makes them want to buy this stuff. So how do you sell beautiful clothes, cosmetics, hair products, contraception, abortion, singles travel, all these things that are in these women's magazines, high fashion women's magazines? You sell them by selling the Cosmo lifestyle.
I'm a PhD.
You can say Cosmopolitan has nothing to do with you, but yes, you have the internet today and OnlyFans because of Playboy. You have the kind of rap music and stuff you have today back when NWA was going to jail for F the Police, and 2 Live Crew were being put in jail for songs that would be very tame today. This is where it came from. It was propaganda. It was all to sell stuff. The Cosmo lifestyle. And this is what happens.
Once you've convinced a young woman that this is the lifestyle she wants to live, she'll think, I just have to have all these other products. And so Cosmo was extraordinarily successful. You have to remember, in the early 1970s, when I went there, it was the hottest women's magazine in the nation. And also had, advertisers were coming out of the woodwork trying to get into Cosmo. And so that was such a successful magazine that you see so many women's fashion magazines today that are following the Cosmo lead, if you will.
I have a quote here where you talked about propaganda in this way. You said, propaganda cuts off the democratic discourse, blocks genuine dialogue, and keeps the public from participating in reality. By the time the propagandists' deceptions are exposed to the twisted truth they are, untold and irreversible damage has often been done to the external order of human existence.
Now we're going to skip another part of this because I want to get into talking about how the sexual revolution and all this was married together. And I'm give me a minute, and I want you to listen to how this all comes together.
You set out, yes, you were blowing the whistle on all the cultural propaganda about divorce and uncommitted sex and all that stuff. But you wanted to answer the question, correct me if I'm wrong, of how the sexual revolution and the women's movement became commingled. And you said, quote, in the beginning, the women's movement and the sexual revolution were distinctly separate. And then you wanted to show in this book how
feminism, the women's movement, ERA, and sexual revolution were two different things. Phyllis Schlafly, there's a whole history of this. It's like they were the Bloods and the Crips, two different gangs. But then all of a sudden, something happened and they became one.
Oh, they got intertwined.
Right. When I was sitting at my little blue desk at Cosmo in 1971, the women's movement was in full swing at that time. And Betty Friedan, Helen Gurley Brown would have loved for Betty Friedan to write for Cosmo, but Betty Friedan called Cosmo quite obscene and quite horrible. So you had the women's movement on one side, launched by Betty Friedan with the feminine mystique in 1963. And then you had Helen Gurley Brown, who launched the sexual revolution magazine Cosmo in 1965. By the time I got there, I saw that they were two radically separate movements. So how did they get joined together? That was the question people started to ask me. And a friend of mine said, was it abortion? I looked at her and I thought, I think it was. But I didn't know, you see. That's why it took me so long to write that book. I had to find out how did abortion get inserted in the women's movement? Because abortion is anti-motherhood, anti-woman. It's anti-woman. So how did that get joined together? Well, it took me many, many years. And if we hadn't had Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who, as you know, was an abortionist who later became a pro-life activist, he became a Catholic eventually. But Dr. Bernard Nathanson had spilled the beans by telling the world that he and a man named Lawrence Lader, who were co-founders of what's now NARAL Pro-Choice America, had convinced Betty Friedan to insert abortion in the women's movement. If he hadn't told
the women's movement. So when people tell you that it has nothing to do with all these different things, yeah, it does. And she goes on to describe how these two different ideologies basically had come together and inserted that word into the women's movement and then changed the words to reproductive choice. Because there is no way you can tell women to postpone marriage, have sex without babies, without making work, and free sex, not a big deal. That's what goes on. And so later on, Suzanne reads a section from Sue Ellen's book about the sexual revolution, where the women's movement became intertwined with the popular sphere of young women that believing liberation means going to college, pursuing a career, postponing marriage and motherhood, and to be as sexually active as possible with no strings attached. This has led to so much pain for women. Now, let's bring it all home. That was the birth of the PhD. That's the birth of all this. Telling women, hey, it's your right. It's liberation. The evil patriarchy. All that stuff. Well, let's fast forward it, shall we? Let's fast forward and see what happens later on. I'm going to play something from a clip from a channel here on YouTube. Shout out to them. I'm going to use audio from them. It's Grapevine. And I'm going to start right here.
I'm going to first start to talk about the
fair use.
Statistics that come out saying that 70% of Black women are single. Is that a myth? Do you think that's true? Who wants?
This was 4 years ago. Now, that woman who was one of the writers, major writers, she left Cosmo in '83. But the damage was done. She talks about how she finally started coming to terms with the damage she had caused in 2003 when she converted to Catholicism and started seeing all these women living these Sarah Jessica Parker Sex and the City lives and seeing all the damage that it caused with women not doing what she, basically what they were sold to do. And she said, I had to come clean. Understand, this woman, the writer of this, was married for 40 years. And the woman that hired her, married 50 years, out promoting having sex with married men. But she said, if you try to sleep with my husband, I kill you. Listen.
I think it's unbelievably high. Okay. But do you see that in your everyday life, that that's the case?
Every time I try to holler at a girl, that must be extremely high. I don't think
I believe that's pretty true and accurate.
The stat they're talking about is the out of wedlock, or how many women are married or not married. And you're going to see that, well, let's just get right to it. What typically happens when women tend to hear stats that they don't like? They're starting to question the stat. Here we go.
Between the ages of 18 to 34.
I researched before. I'm not sure if it's single or unmarried, but we'll link it. We'll link it at the bottom. Go ahead, Sarun. Wait, I'm sorry. One person at a time. Go ahead, Sarun.
It is unmarried.
It's
and
unmarried.
The statistic is actually skewed. It's 70% of Black women between the ages of 18 to 34
are unmarried.
Imagine
18-year-olds.
Which that's what a lot of people are saying, that it's a skewed statistic because.
Of course, anytime you hear something that you don't like, we're going to question the stat. Pay very close attention to what's about to happen.
Most people from the age of 18 to 34
are unmarried. But I think also, like, back in the day, like, people were getting married at 23. Like, my mom got married at 23.
Your average American nowadays gets married at 20. Your average woman gets married at 26 or 27. And your average male, I want to say, gets married at like 28 or 29.
Okay, so knowing that, do you feel like there's like a stigma as a Black woman when you're like single, or just because of all these studies that come out, all these videos, all these questions about
fair use? The stigma that goes along, I'll let her go ahead and say this.
The focus is more so on Black women, and we're not looking.
Yeah, we're going to go on to the next part. They're going to go in to talk about the stigma and all this other kind of stuff. A bunch of pandering instead of dealing with the reality of what goes on.
As a whole, like.
Shared degree.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, Simran, just let Sakina go.
I was going to say that I think that the focus of women, you know, between ages 18 to 34 is also very different. Like, you don't finish your degree until you're, you know, 20, 22. And then if you go on to grad school, now you're 24, you're 26, and then you're a working professional. So I think the focus of millennials, especially black millennials, is very different. We're traveling, we're working in corporate environments, we're entrepreneurs, you know, so I think...
Suzanne reads a section from Sue Ellen's book, talks about how the sexual revolution and the women's movement became intertwined in the popular sphere that young women believed that liberation means to go to college, pursue a career, postpone marriage, motherhood, become sexually as active as possible with no strings attached, and how this has led to so much pain for women. Traveling, turning up.
Some of them is turning up. But you know, so I think the focus is different and not necessarily on getting married right now.
But what I will say is that when I like go into certain situations and I see like my white female counterparts, everybody has a ring.
That's it. You can say what you want to, but you go around and you see your non-black counterparts and they're doing all the stuff that black women are doing, plus they got a ring. Plus they got a ring. Plus they got a ring.
No matter if they're like starting at 24, and it's not necessarily the case with my black female counterpart.
Well, I agree
Go ahead,
with,
Donovan.
I agree with Ashley.
Of course, here we have the best in simp talk. And this is another thing. Here comes the panda bear to go in and question all the other stuff. And that is what has happened. Panda bears were big 4 years ago. But panda bears aren't helping because panda bears ain't got nothing for you except more pandering. The reality is what just happened.
Okay, Simran, did you want to say something?
A few things.
Okay.
So to kind of piggyback off what you said, which is what I was already going to say, once black women hit 34 and above, the number actually rises dramatically. I think it's like 80%.
You better come with the
statistics. Or 90%.
Yes.
Why is it? I do.
This woman just said that, yeah, those skewed stats, but once they go from 35 to 34 to 35, the number of unmarried black women dramatically rises to 80 or 90% married. And this other woman, as on cue, says, you better come with the stats. The propaganda has worked. 80 to 90% of black women are married over age 35. And you got women in here saying, yeah, the numbers are wrong. The stats are wrong.
For anyone that doesn't know, I'm on YouTube and actually did a video on this. So 80%, or it might even be higher than that, 90% of black women 34 and above are married or have been married at least once.
Okay.
Going off what you said about white women getting married at a younger age, 50 or 60% of first marriages that when you get married before 25 end in divorce. So people are getting married younger, but they have a higher chance of divorcing. When
How many times do you hear women who have a problem with my platform parroting this stuff right here? This woman says, yeah, I did a video on it. Yeah, a wrong video telling 30. So don't worry. When you're all the way up in no man's land, all of a sudden, the marital numbers just automatically jump to 80, 90%. 8 or 9 out of 10 black women all of a sudden get married when just a year before, 70 to 80% of you were unmarried. And they didn't even think to question the number because it felt good to hear it. And no one pushes back on this. 4 years ago, there was no one to push back on this. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Go look in the comment section. And it's littered with women destroying men. Ladies, the propaganda worked to where you even got women saying, oh yeah, the numbers are off.
get married below 30, like there's a much higher chance. And I know a lot of white girls that do get married they get married at 23 and they're divorced by 29, and then they're on to their second marriage.
The second marriage.
Yeah,
that's true.
And in terms of who black men want to date and stuff like that, as of 2014, 86% of black men that were married to black women. So you actually
can we just clap about that? Yeah. I love it.
Listen to the selective hearing. 70% aren't married between 18 and 30. We're going to question the stat. But automatically, between over age 35, they get married at a rate of 80 to 90%. And then when they are married, they're marrying black women. Yay! When you look around this room and all of them are single, and I would be willing to, and I would love for Grapevine to respond. I would love to hear how many women from this platform in 2016 are married since this video dropped. Back then, men could not say anything because they would be shouted down. But you just heard, just in that much of listening to that, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But let somebody tell you what you want to hear, and you'll clap on cue.
Have a stencil for the men that they want, and that's kind of what impedes the development of a family. Like, oh, he gotta have a job, he gotta have a car, and he has to have teeth. No. But if I could finish my point,
let Valar finish.
I'm exaggerating, I'm being facetious, but they do kind of hold it to a certain stencil. You know what I mean? So I feel like men.
Fluid and flexible. What you're saying.
They should. Yeah, they should. I'm not saying they should.
They need to settle.
I'm not saying they should settle, but
Brother can't even get his word out of his mouth. And you wonder why men don't talk, ladies. It's because all he was saying is the truth. Yeah. But the men you talk about marrying, the men you want, they're a very small group of men. And if you don't get one of these small group of men, all of a sudden, it's settling. It's settling. It's settling. That was the birth of the PhD. Now you understand that I'm not being pejorative. I'm not being overly insulting. I'm telling you, this was a plan to sell products and services to women. And Cosmo was targeting 92% of people that didn't live in it. They didn't say to sell into black women, but if they were selling to white women, they were selling to black women. And if it affected the white community, it affected the black community exponentially, because if the white community catches a cold, the black community catches the flu. How often do you hear, I'm not selling, I don't want no 9-to-5 guy, I want to go out and get my degree, go get this, go get that. That's why I juxtaposed two middle-aged and older, actually. One of them was an elderly white woman talking to a middle-aged white woman, and you got young black women parroting the stuff that white woman was writing. Oh, I'm sorry, that white woman was lying about writing. That stuff that white woman was making up to sell magazines, to sell advertising. So that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from, and it's all over the place. It is all over the place. So why are modern women in so much pain, so unmarried? Because look, you cannot put off, delay marriage and children without making it all okay. Sex without strings, rotations. Now we're getting to the point to where y'all see what's going on. Y'all see what's going on. It is getting even more extreme. And it's time to actually just pull it down and realize that all this stuff that you bought into was sold to you to get you to buy products and services. And in the black community, it was somewhat reinforced by a new prosperity gospel in the church. You're meant to have what you want to have. So all you ladies were told that you can go take your most prime years, go to college, date around, do whatever you want, and then go live the wonderful life of Erica, travel this, that, turn up, and then over 30 or 35 years old, when you decide you want to, you can turn around and grab a man off the high value tree and get started getting married. And it's a lie. It's a lie. And I'm sorry to tell you, you were lied to, but you were. The women that were writing these things said this wasn't happening. People weren't going out for doing this. They were getting married at 23. You heard the girl in the white who was leading the whole panel said, my mother was married at 23. But if I say get married at 23 years old right now, women would say, that's too young for marriage. I come from the advertising industry. I saw this. I'm sorry. Here it is. Birth of the PhD. So when you think I'm just laughing and joking and snapping and making and being facetious, no. Because this is where it is. This is where it is. That woman said she had to confess because she had seen the damage that her propaganda, her lies had done to the West. Women were convinced to put off marriage with average men. Women were taught to, the guys you're with is never good enough because there's always some illustrious, high-value Mr. Big somewhere out there in Cleveland or Alabama. And all you got to do is decide you want one. And because you're older, you can get one. This is why so many women, this is one of the major reasons why modern women are so single. You were sold a lifestyle that kept you independent and consuming. And I'm sorry, the men over here didn't do it to you, but you cannot get your youth back. And the funny thing is, like the sister that came in and said, yeah, all these stats are skewed, The one chick said, if I look around and my non-black counterparts, they're all married. Black women, you bought this hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. More so than any other group of people. Now, what are you going to do about it? But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Just maybe that's all BS. And that woman was just saying something to be saying something. We shall see, though. Open the call lines.
Money work. El mundo quiere dinero. Money work. Se arregla con dinero. Money work. Si me quiero educar, dormir en algún lugar, un lugar para trabajar, y si no hay para emigrar. Todo money, money, todo el dinero. Solo un par de gente se lleva el botín entero. Funny, funny, pasa verdadero. Si tienes lo verde siempre llegará primero. Pero llegaremos antes o después. Solo a lo suyo, que Dios te lo ve. Que por más que tarde lo veré caer. Somos más lo bueno y tenemos fe. El dinero ya lo veré. No vendo mi alma, lo lograré. Seré el más grande, no olvidaré de dónde vengo ni cómo voy. Money work. El mundo quiere dinero. Money work. Se arregla con dinero. Money work. Yo digo las cosas como son. No quiero ninguna aceptación. Tampoco vengo a pedir perdón porque mis sentimientos se volvieron la canción. Yeah. No me vale mucho como tú me ves. Sabes, tú me llegas solo a los pies. Para mí ser grande es un interés. Ser un buen humano para mí es un deber. El dinero ya lo veré. No vendo mi alma, lo lograré. Seré el más grande, no olvidaré de dónde vengo ni cómo voy. Money work. Yeah. El mundo quiere dinero. Yeah. Money work. Se arregla con dinero. Money work. De corazón, La plata no te hace ser feliz. Yeah, de corazón, yeah. La plata no te hace ser feliz. Money work. El mundo quiere dinero. Yeah, 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 yeah. Money work. Money work. Money work. Money work. Se arregla con dinero. Money work. Lunes. Lunático.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Now remember, all I'm asking is I'll be nice to you if you're nice to me. I didn't make up the article. I didn't make it up, but this is a history of what's gone on. Ladies only. Guys, I'm not asking to speak to you. So if you're a guy, don't call in. I just said if you're a guy, not to call in. I guess you guys don't pay attention. If you're a guy, don't call in. If you're a guy in the comment section, leave. If you're a guy, don't call in. Hello?
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so I went to a women's college and I just
First
remember.
off, your name and how old are you?
Yeah, my name is Sydney and I'm 25.
Okay. What do you got?
So I went to a women's college and I remember just one of the major things that they would tell us all the time is that one, gender was a social construct, two, that women didn't need men, and three, that women could literally just beat men at everything, and that's what we should do. And it took me years after I graduated college 3 years ago to really undo all that programming, because it's literally what it is.
Well, it's becoming even worse on modern campuses. That's why many are fleeing college campuses. It's but you know what? I'm gonna stay away from, the social politic and the campus, but we're gonna stick on the fact of dating and relationships. This is what women were sold. I don't doubt that this is what happened on college. So how is it impacting you now in your quest to date and mate?
Well, yeah. Well, I think I definitely see it with my mom. Like, she watches so many of these TV shows that are saying.
But what about you though?
With me, well, I was definitely not prioritizing like dating men or anything like that. So I really had to think about. I actually am not on that path to like be working in the workforce or anything like that. I realized that my priority had to be on being able to like just be a wife, right? So like being
Are you seeing anybody right now?
Not right now, no.
Okay. You ladies a lot of you ladies just sound like you, when I talk about relationships, you guys just sound so uncomfortable. So uncomfortable, and it's like, I asked you how to speak Chinese. It's like, and that's unfortunate because men are on the other side, and you guys are going to have to you have a degree, a bachelor's, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have to put twice the work, 3 times the work you did into getting the bachelor's to get a man.
Yeah.
Because you don't seem to speak the language. And the first thing I asked is about you, and you start talking about your mom. Your mom has made her choice. At 25, you either decide to learn what we are, what we value, what matters to us, get curious and approach it like your hair's on fire, or be one of the 4 that ends up, or being the 3 out of the 4 that ends up alone. Hold on. Here we go. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, you got your camera all over the place. Unmute yourself. Yeah, this is some dude in the background. No, I'm not trying to hear this. They're tripping. All right, if you're gonna come on, you need to be on and be prepared to go. I'm not trying to have a bunch of. Hello?
Hello? Hi.
Hi. Your first name?
Stacy.
What do you got for me?
Yeah, I just wanted to share. I'm 46. I'm
Okay.
single and
Uh-huh.
I'm single and this is very true. I was taught, I was born in 75. And so me growing up in going to college in the 90s and things like that, it was taught to be independent and things like that. You know, go for your dreams, follow your dreams. Don't get married, especially don't settle. That was just like the emphasis. Don't settle, don't settle, don't settle. I'm 46 years old and I'm single. My choices are beyond limited. I don't have any choices. It's pretty much over for me. And I just wanted to share that everything that that interviewer said was so true. It was pure propaganda. It was feminism 101.
Appreciate it, Mom.
And
I got
yes,
to get to somebody else. Hold on. Let me get to somebody else
sorry.
too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Oh, hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 39.
What do you got for me?
I did want to just comment on, I jumped in at the last minute, but did want to comment on the panel that was happening and so much that's going on today. But I also see, I see feminism like at its height, and two, I see a lot of women, especially Black women, recognizing how it's failed all of us and is failing us as a whole in our community. And I'm also kind of proud to say that in my community in Sacramento, I know that I, as well as some of my other female friends and family members, have kind of made a concerted effort to kind of change the narrative and be more deliberate about championing our Black men, and just supporting them in business.
Hold on, Summer. Hold on. If you're in the chat room on the call and you have a disagreement, raise your hand, because I want to get to the people who may not be on the same page, and answer some questions, because you said you're 39?
I am, yes.
Any children?
I have 3 children.
Have you ever been married?
I have. I've been divorced now for about 5 years.
Are you married to their father?
Yes. Well,
you're in the one out of you in the 1 out of 4, so at least you can say you were.
Yeah, no, I was.
Right.
I've had a few proposals, but I think I need, as a woman, to educate myself more on, what my own shortcomings are, and more prepare myself to be an actual valuable partner to someone before I'm ready to jump back in there.
Appreciate it. All right, so here's what I need. Here's what I need from you guys. If you're on and you want to get on, if you have a question, you got to kind of get to the point. Oh, this woman's called in before. I've seen you before. Wow. All right. If your camera is on, I'm going to the people who have their camera on first. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi. How old are you?
I'm 25. My name is Chelsea.
Okay, what do you got for me?
I guess I just more so have a comment. I've been watching your videos for the past couple weeks, and I know you stress a lot that we should, as women, we should start, what's the word I'm trying to find? We should start aspiring to marriage and working towards being a wife, or trying to, we should actively be pursuing that young. But from my experience, I just find that, and it may be the area that I'm in, a lot of, or from the men that I've come in contact with, that's not what they're on. Like, that's not what
college?
Not anymore.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to University of Arkansas.
There are plenty of Black men at University of Arkansas.
I'm not saying it's not eligible bachelors. I just feel like and it could be the dating pool or the people who I'm aspiring to want to be with, that type of man.
So
they're not
you
necessarily.
It almost sounds like you're making an argument that the men aren't ready for marriage.
I feel as though with the
It's
age
not.
group that I'm in, I haven't really come across a lot of
Well,
men that are ready to settle down.
hold on. You're 25?
Yes,
What's the oldest man you've ever dated?
probably like 30.
Right. And you were how old?
I was 24, so this was last year.
So I'm sorry that, first of all, in our community, women want men to be around the same age and making six figures or more. Men start looking to get married after 35. So looking for a man in your 20s, yeah, it makes sense you're not going to find somebody because he's still out here working, trying to become a even able to produce for a wife and kids. So yes, this is why I stress that you ladies got to start being more realistic and putting yourself in a position. Are you still in Arkansas? You muted yourself. Hello? Are you still
Yes,
in
I'm
Arkansas?
still in Arkansas. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's going to have and you know, the next question I'm going to ask, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? How many kids do you want to have? All these other things. And Arkansas is it's one of the worst states in the union. Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi are always fighting for the bottom 3 spots. So if you want a successful black man, Arkansas is not necessarily the place to go get them.
Okay.
So I don't know why this is the reality I need you ladies to start understanding. They told you, you were sold that these successful men are all over the place, and there's nothing in Arkansas that's really appealing, and no diss to the people in Arkansas, but you know what it is.
Yeah, I know.
So why are you still there?
I guess
Because it's convenient.
probably comfort. If anything,
Well,
I done got comfortable here.
Guess what? Because you're about 2 years from the danger zone. And I'm sorry. The thought process of, well, the men aren't on my level and the men aren't ready and this and that doesn't matter when time is run out. You ladies are going to have to put yourself in the position and go to places and areas where the kind of men you want are. If you want a different outcome. If you don't, then it is what it is. The halls of whatever, your numbers, your microphone's not on. Unmute yourself. Miss something or other.
Hey, Uncle Kev, how are you?
Hello. Do you have a disagreement?
I have more like an addition because I don't want to credit everything. I believe in the fact of
Well, how old are you, by the way?
27.
Okay. Go ahead. Hello? What happened to you? She muted herself. All right, so here's what I need. I need the people who have questions or disagreements to pop up because we can't just have the same, hey, I agree. Here's the problem. Many of you ladies, even the ones that do agree, you're still not willing to do what it takes to make yourself viable for your outcomes. Meaning, like I spoke with the previous caller, when you're in Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, these places are not overrunning with, rich, successful men. You're going to get guys making $15, $20 an hour. That's good. The median income for a black man in this country is $42,000. That's what 50% are going to make. So if you want something that's going to be higher, so she's supposed to leave. Let me go ahead and get you on here. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Candy, seeing as though you don't seem to understand the point. Unmute yourself. What's your question?
Good evening.
Hello. What was the question that you typed?
No, you were saying something that they have only people who make $10, $20
What was the
an
question that you
hour.
typed?
I said, so is she supposed to leave because she have to leave to go find a man because there's
Okay,
no
where are you
men
from?
here for
Okay,
her?
hold on. Okay. Where are you at?
I'm in New York.
Yeah, you've called in my show before, right?
One time before.
Right. Understand something. You don't have to do anything. No one has to do anything. But you cannot make something be what it's not. If you want a man who's earning more, you cannot be in a poor state.
I agree.
So why is that? But why did that seem to trigger you ladies when you hear that you have to do something? No time for little girls. Seems to trigger you ladies. And see, the funny thing is, let me go ahead and speak on that too. Far too many of you young sisters, man, y'all are too immature. Like I had that one person that was on Instagram the other day. It's time for you ladies to grow up. Go back to the second broadcast I put in, and the sister in the white said, my mother was married at 23. You're supposed to be a grown-ass woman at 20, 23, 25. Women were having children and becoming wives. And y'all, too many of you act like teenagers. Still walking down with barrettes in your hair, eating a pickle with a Jolly Rancher in it. Grow the French toast up, ladies. I mean, if you want a different outcome, and if you don't, knock yourself out. Becky, Marisol, Mylene, Anu, they would have no problem hollering at your men. They have no problem that you sitting around talking about, what I'm supposed to do this. No. Becky will tell you, you ain't supposed to do nothing. You sit right there, and I'm going to go holler at Jamal. Hello, Monica, unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Monica. So, Mookie, that's who she was. See, another part of this that bothers many women is they were sold education and income. And I said this then, your education, your degree, and your money does not make you more high value. Does not increase your market value as a woman. Not like you think it does. Not like you think it does. Unmute yourself. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. So I have a question for you. How do we change the narrative going forward? So we've been programmed to think that having fun, being educated is the way to go. How do we... Oh, I've been married for 13 years.
Okay.
But I have a
That's how you change the narrative.
I have sisters. So
are they married?
One of them is not. She's very educated. She's very successful.
Why is she not married?
Well, she's engaged, but she's not married. So her reason for not being married was always, I have to finish my boards. I have to finish this degree. I have to finish.
So you asked me the question, how you change the narrative? By getting married. Get married, if you want a different outcome, you got to raise the number, raise the percentages. We have to start telling, not necessarily early marriage, but just stop delaying it earlier. Start understanding that the men you're going to marry aren't necessarily going to be your age, depending upon the kind of lifestyle you want.
Okay.
Yeah, lastly, women have to start getting very curious about men, understanding who men are, what we want, and what we're willing to sign for. That in and of itself is what's missing, because what so many women today want to give men is what they have to sell. It's not what men are asking for.
Okay.
Got it? Appreciate it. All right. So, yeah, changing the narrative comes down to if you want a different outcome. And I'm a big fan. I always say that, you know, this whole falling in love thing, that just doesn't, that's Disney, the Disneyfication of relationships. This lady's going ham on this hard. Lady, your microphone is not connected. She does not seem to get it. Your microphone is not connected, so I can't help you if your mic's not connected. Hall of whatever, your microphone is not connected, so without that, I cannot do nothing for you. So, I think it's also shocking to a lot of women that when they realize that, oh my God, it's going to require more than just being, you know, cute. It's going to require more than just being cute. It's going to require actually, especially the higher up you go, it's going to require you actually having relationship skills. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. Yes. First name.
Clarice.
Clarice?
Yes.
What do you got for me?
Hi. So I am a going close to middle-aged woman, but I am married. I'm 40 years old. But my question, and I have 2 children, one adult, 22 years old, and the other one is 9. The 9-year-old is with my husband. So my question is, how, because I just started listening to your videos recently, I'm just trying to figure out how are you classifying a man as high value or a woman as high value? Like,
I have
what are the
okay, I have videos on this.
Okay.
If you have them, please, you have to go back and kind of watch. There's a lot of stuff out there, but I have the videos. 10-minute video on what makes a man high value, and I also have a video on what makes a woman high value. Go ahead.
Can I ask one more question? Okay, so then I also have a question in reference to I think a couple of times you said that women needed to be somewhat slimmer and fitter, and
they need to. Depends on the outcomes you want.
Right. I understand that. I think that things like what men find attractive are different in different geographics.
Obviously, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Really? How old are you? 40?
I'm 40, yes.
Okay, please let's not do this. I'm like, obviously there are preferential differences, but are you really going to try to tell me that men want women to be way more than they do?
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Well, the average black woman weighs more than the average black man at his height. 80% of black women are overweight, and 80% of those are obese. So just because men may happen to like where the fat lands doesn't mean that it's going to work. There needs to be a more fit woman.
Right. That I wasn't going to say that she should look overweight. I'm saying that.
No. She shouldn't look overweight. She shouldn't be overweight. There's no gray area on this. Go back and look at your grandmother and your great grandmother. Go back in your family albums and show me the 200 and 300 pound women. They didn't exist. Go back and watch Coolie High is a movie that's on YouTube. It's free right now. Go in there. Go look at the women who are standing over there eating chicken by themselves and eating chips. That's the woman that people were laughing at in the movie while the pretty girls was being danced with and the thin girls was being danced with.
Okay. I can agree with that. I just have one more thing to say. So I've seen a lot of interracial relationships where the white woman was very overweight.
I don't care. What does that mean?
No, I mean, so because you were
saying okay, here's the problem I have with what you're doing. You've only been watching a short period of time, and you come in.
I admit to that.
All right, so go back and so here's what I think: go do your homework, because I don't like when women come in doing this. Well, not all, and then there's some. You just wasted what time for what? Just to tell women that ultimately, do you think what you're saying is going to help women get what they want? Go ahead and be overweight, and there's some fat white women.
No, I was just.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I just have a little patience for I've just showed you 50, 60 years of propaganda and young black people parroting this propaganda. And you get a woman who's 40 coming in and, for the most part, parroting the propaganda. How do we change the narrative? That's what the previous caller asked. We're going to need women like her to stop doing that. We need women like her to start saying, the stuff that I was saying 3-4 years ago is BS, young sis. Don't do this. Get out here and be as fit as you can get and as pretty as possible. And you need to be the girly girl. That's what we need women to start telling women. Not that, well, there may be somebody who likes your elbow meat. There may be somebody who likes you have an extra meat hanging off your knees. Cause you see Honey Boo Boo's mom look that way. It's not helping. And you're gonna need to sit the phone down because you're kind of hyperactive. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Well, hello. There may be somebody who likes the. All right, you're gonna have to turn YouTube off in the background. You gotta turn YouTube off in the background. Because that'll come through. All right, let's do this one more again. Hello? I don't like it. Okay, you're gonna need. All right, you didn't turn YouTube off like I asked you to.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. What's your first name? Okay, I'm going to say it one more time. If you don't turn it off, I'm going to go ahead to the next caller.
Hello?
Hi, what's your first name? What is your first name?
Great area on this.
All right. And it's this Celestine. No, I don't know who you are. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Hello? Hi, is your finger over the camera or something? What do you have for me? Uh-huh. Okay, what I'm gonna need you to do is I'm no offense, man, but I'm gonna need you guys to don't give me the preamble, get to the question. Because it's taking
okay, so I'm trying to figure out what went wrong in my dating life as far as just trying to find a mate. Because I knew from back then what I wanted. I wanted also an education. I wanted to have a mate. I wanted to have a family, and none of that transpired for me.
Did you get an education?
Yes, I did.
What's your degree in?
And I thought the ideal place to meet a guy would be at school.
Where's your no?
But that didn't transpire.
Because you didn't not listening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. What is your degree in?
I can hear you. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice.
All right. Do you have YouTube on in the background or something? Because that tends to have a problem with this.
No.
All right. So, and
no,
you're 40, and you're 40, and you're 40. And you're 40,
42.
Right? 42.
Yeah, 42.
What state do you live in?
New York.
New York. Are you from New York?
Yes.
All right. How tall are you?
5'4".
Dress size?
18-20.
That's your problem.
But no, that's not fair, Kevin. Because
no, it is. I don't give a shit about fair. No, I don't give a shit about fair. I don't you overtalk me. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Don't overtalk me. I told. Do not overtalk me.
Okay.
You called and asked me for my advice, and when I started talking and I say something you don't like, you give me the New York girl attitude. If this is how you conduct yourself, this is another reason why you can't find nobody. 18, 20. How much do you weigh?
I'm close to 300 pounds.
Ma'am, are you seriously asking why you can't find a man? And you weigh almost your height, you should be 120 pounds. You cannot be seriously asking me why you can't find someone. The better question is, why should
Kevin?
somebody accept this?
Kevin?
No. The better question is, why should a man
Kevin?
Why should a man accept
I know.
this? I'm not going to do that. We know where that's going to go. We know where that's going to go. So I'm not going to sit here and counsel you on why you should go work out. You're 40 years old. You're educated. You know you're morbidly obese. If you want to be 300 pounds, knock yourself out.
I'm a PhD.
What am I supposed to say? Talk to her and ask her why she got there and who her mom and dad was, and no. 80% being overweight or obese. That means 70, 80 years ago, the average women we didn't have an 80% rate. There's a correlation, not a causation, but as women's weight has gone up in our community, the marital rates have gone down. Men are not going to take women on as wives who they're not sexually attracted to, who they're not proud of, who they can't bring around their friends, their family, their colleagues. I'm just not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And I'm sorry that people tell you that you're beautiful in the skin you're in and fat acceptance and all other stuff. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Go ahead. Hello? Hey, what's your question?
Women pursuing a degree and having a partner usually is dissonant. But what about women who acquire both of those things simultaneously?
Say again? What's the question?
Sorry, go ahead.
What's the question?
My question is that good or bad? Because often women that have degrees on your channel, PhDs, masters, you often tell them that their approach to having a partner is, because of that degree. But what is the problem when they get it simultaneously? Is that not okay?
Sounds to me like you're saying that. Do you have a master's or a PhD?
No, I'm currently in school.
Do you have a boyfriend or you have a husband?
Partners, yeah, just a partner, a boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It almost sounds like you're asking me if you can navigate relationship. Well, first off, a master's or a PhD does not keep non-Black women from not getting a husband.
Okay.
So I don't know how you want to package that, but your master's, Black woman going to get a master's or a PhD should not make it any more problematic to get a man. But for some strange reason, on this side, it seems to be very problematic. And there are a lot of things that go into that too. And one it's not that hard to realize is the weight issue. If you can have a master's or a PhD, yeah, you should be able to find a man. As long as you prioritize the relationship as well. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi. Let's try this one again.
Yes,
First name.
my technical difficulties.
Yeah, first name.
Perry.
What do you got? What do you got for me?
So I have a disagreement, though I agree with most of the things you say. My disagreement would be as far as the modern day woman is concerned and the propaganda aspect. I'm also 30 years old. I was raised by an elder, and I just feel like propaganda in our community isn't as big as a issue as it is just the upbringing of also our exposure. I feel like
Hold on. Propaganda, whether it comes from Cosmopolitan or whether it comes from TLC, is propaganda.
Absolutely, but I feel like the bigger issue is the exposure that we don't have to see married people. Like we all know.
Well, why don't we have that?
I think it's more of a socioeconomic thing than.
No. Let me make it real clear. Why aren't Black women married?
Well, to each his own. For me, I can only speak for myself.
This is when y'all start getting real game goofy.
It's not.
You got all these big words before. Listen, no. You had all these words before, and I ask a direct question. Then it starts to get. I don't want to say something that's going to make women feel a certain way.
No,
let me give it to you this way. Don't roll your eyes.
I'm sorry, I didn't roll my eyes. I think it's a delay.
Prior to 1965, when we were broker, less educated, Jim Crowed and segregated, we had an 80% marital rate. Tell me about the socioeconomic status that prevented Black folks from being married then.
Yes, and that's what I was speaking on. I believe back then when we were in the field together, we had more of a reason to stay together. And then when the economic structure changed, the only people that were affected were mostly minorities. And once computers came into place,
this makes no sense, ma'am. Computers exist for everybody. What you're not talking about is what you're not talking about is the choice that women make in these relationships. That's what you're not. Every time I've asked a question about women, you've danced. Women choose whether or not they are going to become fit for wives, and women also decide whether to stay or leave relationships.
But as you say all the time, we what do you say? We have access to sex, and you guys have access to marriage.
No, we offer marriage. You control sex. We control marriage.
Correct. So,
but listen. You're confused. And let me help you out.
Okay.
80% of divorces in the Black community are filed by who?
Women.
That means you were married. Why are 8 out of 10 walking away from marriages when only 1 out of 4 can ever expect to be married?
Because we were brought up, as you say, to be very independent. So we missed
that
class.
And understand something. That's your problem as a woman. That's for you and the women to figure out how to become better women, better wives. That's on you. Not the men, not the country, not the media. You and the women that look like you need to figure out how to become better wives to any man you decide, to where a man will want to even marry you and then decide to stay in the relationships you have.
Okay, so yeah, so like I said, I do agree that it's a priority that we don't prioritize correctly. But like I said, I just joined the 30 Club, and at this point, I have listened to you enough to know I actively should be actively pursuing, well, at least trying to be pursued.
If that's what you want. But see, what I can't allow is all this. It's really not our fault. I'm not going to allow you women to not take their accountability.
I believe in taking accountability. That's not
but the answers, every time I've asked you for an answer for women to take accountability, you just put up the Wonder Woman bracelets. Like, do you want to be married?
Yes.
Do you want children?
I could, or I could not. It's not a deal breaker for me.
Do you want children?
I'd be happy to have some from my husband if that's what he wanted.
Do you want children? See, these are very simple questions. I just ask you, do you want children?
No. Do I want children? No. Would I be okay with having some?
Okay, but the question I asked is, did you want them? But see, let me explain why that was such a big problem. The combative, deflective nature of even just getting a simple answer out of you as a Black woman is frustrating to me as a man. Makes me not want to talk to you when I just asked a simple question that I know you understood.
Oh man, Kevin. So it's hard. It's hard out here.
No, you're being difficult. You heard the question. You just chose to be a jerk about it.
I didn't mean to be a jerk about it, Kevin. That was an honest answer.
No, ma'am. I asked you, did you want children? And the answer was, do I want children? Check yes or check no. Those are the only options I gave you. But you decided to answer it in a question. Well, if my husband wants to have them, I would be open to having them. It was a yes or no question. You made it overly complex. And that's a problem. That's a problem because men don't like communication like that on a romantic level or non-romantic level.
Well, I don't want to have children out of wedlock.
I didn't ask that.
Okay.
I'm using this as an option. And ladies, understand. If you're watching this, understand this shouldn't be that complicated. She should have been able to answer the question and effervescently move on. But so many black women are used to jostling and jousting with black men and competing with us and being our competition and matching move for move. You're not my equal. We're not on a chessboard.
Okay.
The energy is all wrong here.
I'm sorry, Kevin. I didn't.
I'm talking to the audience.
I like you. I didn't come here to be.
I didn't say you did not like me, ma'am, and I'm not being rude. I'm just saying, okay, ma'am, I just asked you if you wanted children.
So no, Kevin, I would not.
All right. And do you want to be married?
Yes.
All right. Are you seeing somebody seriously?
No, not at the moment.
When was the last serious relationship you had?
2 years ago.
How long did that last?
About 2 years.
Why didn't you guys get married?
I wasn't asked to be married. So it didn't happen. And then I moved on.
He was married. Did he know? Did you want to marry him?
No.
Then, huh?
Well, I can say no now because once the relationship dissolved, and while I was in the relationship, I'm being honest, it was a situationship more than a relationship for sure.
Exactly. And were you in school at the time?
No.
All right. And what about the longest relationship you had before that one?
I was in a relationship prior to that for 3 years.
So you have 3 year and a 2-year relationship in your 20s. So 5 years worth of relationships. If I asked the men who you were involved with how they experienced you, what would they tell me?
I would say, I would think they would tell you that the experience was great. I still have really friendships with both of them.
So it begs a question. Why didn't you and the 3-year guy get married?
I think it just wasn't a priority of mine. It wasn't something I prioritized at that time. I traveled a lot for work, so did he. And as you say, long distance doesn't really work.
All right, but okay. And there we go. You were traveling for work, your degree, or this or that. And you took your prime years, and what I'm asking you is of 3 years and 2 years. It seems that black women tend to have the ones that have relationships, you can have them, but they just end. And there's like no definitive answer why it ended. Where was the process? It's just, we're just doing stuff.
Yeah. I think
And the point I'm making is that you're in what I call the danger zone. And you're going to have better answers if you ever expect to get the outcomes you want. Because you've taken your 20s and they're gone.
And I agree. I absolutely agree with you, Kevin. At that moment, when I was 19, I had a very high value man that would have been happy to whisk me off and marry me. And I'm sure I would have been living a very different life at this point. But it goes back to why I called. I feel like I didn't have the support from my family at 19.
I don't doubt that. We don't support marriage. Were you raised with your mother and father?
No, I was raised by my grandmother.
We don't. Our family, our community does not support relationship. More likely than not, people will tell you to leave and go do your career and everything else because women actually in our community think that's what makes you safe. And it's not. It's not what makes you safe. It's what ends up.
I'm a PhD.
And I was never a scholar. Like I said, I went to school, I finished, but that wasn't why, I wouldn't say that was the reason. I wasn't, trying to get a PhD or anything like that.
That's not the point I was making. But thanks for... let me give it to somebody else. Thanks for calling in.
All right, thank you.
I don't think that most sisters understand how it should not be stressful to talk to a woman that I'm not involved with. Let me just be honest. I had a sister call in on Instagram And she changed the entire energy of all the calls. She's a Muslim sister. Because she came in completely in her feminine, and it was a completely different call. I don't think many of you sisters understand how you come across to people you're not even involved with, especially when it's a brother. It's like the first, even the black man you like, you're still in a defensive kind of. It's too much. Let's do this. Unmute yourself. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
How are you?
I'm quite well, thank you, Mr. Samuels.
What do you got for me?
Okay, I have more of a question.
Okay.
I do not have much experience with dating. I am a first generation American, and dating isn't something that we usually.
How old are you?
36.
You've called in before.
Yes.
Okay. What am I don't go ahead.
Okay, so I have never really been asked out by black men before, except for once.
All right. But when I spoke to you last time, what was my suggestion for you?
Oh, you didn't give me a suggestion because I called and it was a agreement or a disagreement.
But you're 36 and you don't really have any relationship experience, right?
Correct.
All right. Ma'am?
Yes,
that's nothing I can really address at this point because at 36, I don't know how you got here. That's why I always say therapist, personal trainer, image consultant, matchmaker. Well, I can say at 36, you're too old to be wasting time trying to figure it out online. You need to be actively doing a lot of things differently simultaneously if you want a different outcome. Because you'll be 40 like that. And it's atypical for a woman to reach the mid-30s and have no real relationship history. That's just not the norm. And there's nothing I can really address here that's going to change your outcomes. That's some one-on-one work.
Okay.
All right. And that has nothing really to do with propaganda. And what it does have to do though is the way the West is now, it's made women like her feel comfortable getting to their mid-30s without relationships. It's like, well, no big deal when I decide I want to have a relationship, but 50, 60 years ago, spinster. Folks would have started asking, where your babies at? Where your husband at? That'd have been pressure. And that's what a lot of women thought they were getting liberated from, but with pressure also helps focus. If you have a disagreement, raise your hand. If you have a disagreement, raise your hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow people who have disagreements to raise their hand. I'll be right back. You're out of your mind. Do not ask me to. Okay. All right. I don't see anybody raise their hands. Let's go here then.
I rebuke.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Hi.
You have a disagreement?
I do not. I had a comment.
Go ahead.
My comment is for all the women who say that they don't have time and they can't squeeze putting a relationship together into their lives.
Yeah, you guys got to get quicker at this. Y'all are kind of just going.
Okay. I'm saying I did it.
Okay. Princess, what do you got for me?
Hi. I've been watching ever since the viral video, and I'm in a fairly new relationship, and I would like to think he's pretty high value. And I even just had a show where I just got done talking with men.
What's the question or comment?
With men telling us what we want. I'm learning from you and other men that sometimes we just need to shut up. Like this guy, he's teaching me, and I'm learning a lot from you about how to be more cooperative. And it is
Okay, hold on just a second. Ladies, we gotta get to the okay. Here's what I need. This is the show, and everybody wants to be heard, but I got a format. It's a conversation. It's not a monologue. Ms. Peck, what do you got for me?
Hi, Mr. Samuel. So my question is, for those who are, for me, like I know that I have a weight issue, right? I am overweight and I'm 22 years old, and I just wanted to know when would be a good time to start dating. Should I wait until after I lose the weight, or should it be, during?
What are the outcomes you want? You want to be married?
I do.
Okay. What dress size are you now?
I am a 16.
All right. Any man that you would date right now would be different than a man you would date if you were dress size 4'6".
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Men are visual. We choose different. So I don't know how you got there, but the priority needs to be getting as fit as you can get safely and quickly, because the time still ticks.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't tell you what not to do, but I would say this: you don't want to. I just say I wouldn't date anybody seriously, because to be fair, the men are going to be different, and you're going to be different. But you don't want to not have interactions with guys. I just say you damn sure don't want to be having sex with a bunch of different guys. You damn sure don't want to be having a bunch of sex or getting emotionally attached to anybody, because that's just extra damage.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to the mothers out there, and the mothers and fathers, stop letting your children get to be, come on now. They need to be dress size 6, 4, 6. Mm-hmm. Got to have some room to grow. Got to have some room to put some babies on, put some baby weight on. You can't just be coming into marriages as dress size whatever and then think, oh, okay. Because a man looks at that and says, well, where's the room to grow after she has my child? I'm be dealing with something else. Unmute yourself. Hi, first name. What's the disagreement?
Where there was, blacks and whites. And one of the things that I think that some of us could learn from in terms of dating is looking at some of our non-black counterparts and how they handle situations with men. Because most of my girlfriends are married, have children, and
Hold on.
I
want to be clear. You're saying 40?
Yeah, I know. I'm not using myself as an example. I mean, I know what you're saying to all the women.
Well, I didn't even get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to say what I was going to say, so you can't know that.
Go ahead, sir.
And what I'm going to say is going to have import. No, you need to go to the men you want to pick you and ask what they want. Going to look at what other women do for their men happens after they already have their men. You're looking at them after acquisition. Y'all can't acquire.
Well, okay, when you say y'all, you're using that broadly, but
because we're not talking about you. I'm using the same example you just used.
I feel like me personally, it's always been in a different arena. Like I said, if you've partied with people of different races,
okay, hold on.
It's different. It's a little different.
Hold on. Okay, have you been married?
I'm not married, no children. So
okay,
no.
So we're not talking. Okay, I judge based upon marriage, not dating and dealing with.
But you got to start somewhere.
No,
to
no,
get
no,
to
no, no,
marriage,
no, no,
though.
no, 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 no. Young ladies. This, see, ma'am, no. This is what I mean. And the reason I stopped you and said what I was going to do is automatically your tone in talking with me is not a conciliatory tone. I gave you room to speak and say what you're going to say. And you go straight over into telling women what they need to possibly do to look at other women, how they treat their husbands. That's a possibility, but you got to tell people how to get a husband. And that's the problem that seems to be happening so often here is acquiring a man that wants to marry, becoming a man's wife.
But would you agree there's stages to that?
I agree that the distinction you're trying to make doesn't matter. You ladies like to be right. And the thing is, obviously there's stages, ma'am. You don't just go from driving down the street and to being a wife and pregnant, obviously. But that is obvious. This is what I mean. We have, and especially in our generation, Generation X, there is a massive breakdown of communication between the men and women. We are the ones that took the brunt of this. And I feel the sorriest for Generation X Black women because I think when the stats come out, it's going to be 1 in 4 will marry. I think it's going to be closer to 1 in 6.
I think you're actually correct. I do.
And
I don't actually disagree with you, Kevin. I hope you don't get that.
No, I'm not saying you disagree.
My point is really as a single Black woman, 40, unmarried, no children. I get everything you're saying.
I'm glad, but you still can't overtalk me. And this is what I'm trying to get. Even when you like Black men, you still don't. It's hard for them to just turn it off and like, hey, I'm still gonna come through and hey. All right. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this up because it's kind of getting a little bit long. And I feel bad for a lot of women because it's like, well, at least men can choose to do something different and have a different outcome. Women, after your prime years are gone, I mean, you can't go get those back. I would say this, that sisters, a lot of you need to learn how to speak softer and more feminine. It's not uncommon for women to get on my show and y'all sound like y'all about to belt out a solo at church. Hey, what's going on? I'm like, God damn, you have feminine octaves. Use the feminine octaves and drop your volume about 80%. If you learn a different outcome, but if you don't, okay. Okay, we'll try this. First, have the camera on. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Hello? I can't hear you. Hello? You got to say something. Rossetti, hello? Okay, she's not speaking. So, all right, here's what we come down to. You know, we're going to have part 2 to this because I've noticed, and other people have noticed, that there are so many young women under the age of 24, 25 and under, you know, straight out of college or, you know, in college. So many women are so angry. I'm like, and here's the phenomenon. So many women who have little to no real world relationship experience, but they're angry like a 50-year-old spinster. How is that possible? And one of the ways it's possible is the women that were lied to, these women who bought into all this propaganda, raised these women. They're these women's aunties. And there's not an insignificant amount of women that are sitting around online, whether here or on Facebook and in popular media, parroting this poison. And you're poisoning another generation. So you don't have to like me, but you do have to sit back and say, is what I'm doing helping people get what they want? And if you can honestly sit back and say, this stuff was poison and I'm passing on the poison. But see, it's difficult, young ladies, for older women to stop this because you are their competition. They can know it, but to tell you who still has your youth, your womb, your fertility, and give you an unfair market advantage over them who was older, part of them is like, I can't do that because you might win and they won't. Me, I'm telling you what the men want. I can't fix that you were lied to by Cosmopolitan and the women's movement. And I can't fix that. No one can. So I said the other day on that whole Dying Alone broadcast, if you want a different outcome, ladies, it is time to get selfish and singularly focused on forget the woman to the left and to the right of you, or right and to the left of you. It's time to start taking these folks out. All right. So somebody says iPad has. All right. I'll try one more before we get up out of here. Do. Hello. Hi, your first name. What do you got for me? Well, what's your disagreement?
It's just a comment. I just want to say that you talk about how you keep comparing pretty much old school women to modern women, and the times have changed.
So what? No. Let me explain something to you. Times may have changed, but women still want men to be traditional and pay bills.
I believe some women
No,
do, but
if you watch my show from May to today, go back and listen to show after show after show after show. You will hear women across the board saying I said it in the video, of over 700 women who've called into my show, 3 have said they didn't want a man who could pay all the bills. 3.
Okay. I'm just saying, I just wanted to say that personally, from what I've seen, I believe most women would want a partnership. And the problem is that a lot of times
a partnership, what does that mean? Meaning split the bills 50-50? 60-40?
Yes, I think a lot of women.
Okay, how old are you?
I'm 36.
All right. Ma'am, have you ever been married?
No, I'm engaged.
Okay. I would say that maybe that works for you, but I have an entire catalog of women, hundreds of women, and I've taken polls of thousands. And ma'am, women today are modern, but they still want traditional valued men. They don't want 50-50.
That's where I'm sorry, Kevin.
You can disagree, ma'am. You could, but where's the data? But okay, ma'am, you can have an opinion, but where's the data that backs it up? Where are the numbers that can be independently verified to where just don't give me your opinion. Give me where you getting your data from.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty much getting my data off people that I've come in contact with.
Anecdotal experience. And listen, then ma'am, if that's good enough for you, my anecdotal experience plus my data and the videos and everything you can watch is hundreds of times more than yours. So based upon the way you make your opinion, you should switch to what I'm saying based upon your own anecdotal thought process. Mine is bigger than yours, longer, and verifiable. Why is that so hard for you to accept? That maybe what he's saying is more right than not.
I'm sorry. I just can't.
There you go. Thank you.
Can't.
Hey, homeboy. Whoever who's marrying her, get a prenup. Get a prenup, homie. Shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. Anecdotal experience doesn't matter. That's why I did it that way. What is your experience?
When I'm stating.
Yeah. Anecdotal is good enough. The few people I know, they want it this way. And that woman's in her mid-30s. These young ladies, stop listening to women and start listening to men. Again, this is a woman who, when asked, ma'am, here are the data sets. Here are the videos. Here's the information. Here's what's been said. All right, well, tell me what you're doing. Well, it's the people I know. Okay, well, the people I know are more. Mine are bigger, mine is. Mine should be bigger than yours. I got the high joker. You got a 2 of spades. I should still be able to cut that book with this 2. It don't matter what the rules are. Nope. No, thank you. Insane. She was being polite. You can be polite, but that being polite and being obstinate or stubborn is still wrong. If you're not willing, I don't care how polite you are. A smart person is willing to accept new information, even if it counters their assumptions. It is not smart to sit back and say there's new information that verifiably counters, undercuts, undermines, makes my point wrong, irrelevant, or erroneous. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, but if you're still going to sit back and say, 2 + 2 is 5, I don't care what you say, I got no use for that. That's silly. Absolutely silly. So anyway, I got to get up out of here. Show has been great. Go back and watch. The video links will be in the description to the full video from the Cosmopolitan lady and the other video, all fair use. Ladies, at the end of the day, I'm saying that women in the West were sold a story. And that's just one. That's just one writer telling one YouTube personality what she did. There were hundreds of these women. She stopped writing in the 80s. These things are still being said. This has been going on for decades. Decades. And unfortunately, women today are paying the price. So I don't know what you want to do about it, ladies, but I would say take in new information if it can help you. And if you don't think the information can help you, cool. Get the outcomes you want. As long as you can get the outcomes you want and you're happy with the outcomes you get, that's a good thing. Till next time, peace. We are gone. Big Shirley.
In this moment, I cannot say what's wrong or right.
It ain't happening. No. Don't matter.
It's not hard to fool me. No. 'Cause I'm addicted to the good life.
The catch. The prize. Dropping Sunday. First rounders will be dropping Monday. Sunday.